story will focus on a family. There is Jack the father, Annie the wife, Lucy the older sister, and Bees the younger sibling. They are all on their way to a Southeast Asian country because Jack, who is an engineer, happened to get a new job at a company located in there.
Company goes belly up too.
When Bees is looking for his doll, here we will see a man named Hammond, which Hammond will be involved with what will happen to them later.
Oh. Sorry, thank you.
Pleasure.
When they got there, Jack and his family stayed at a luxury hotel, but all the telephone and television lines suddenly went dead, for whatever reason.
It was a difficult birth. The phone's not working.
The next morning, Jack went out alone to buy a newspaper at a bookstore, and what happened? Suddenly all the streets were quiet. The shop immediately closed, everyone went into the house, and a squad of police and a group of residents appeared who looked like they were going to start a brawl like Genji in the film Crows Zero. When the clash occurred, Jack quickly ran away from there, and when he arrived in front of the hotel, Jack witnessed an American man being led into the middle of the crowd and shot dead on the spot. When Jack managed to get into the hotel, he saw these people, or let's say rebels, managed to get into the hotel, which made everyone panic. Jack quickly went to the room to save his wife and children, until he arrived at the top of the hotel building. Suddenly, yes, a helicopter appears and massacres everyone except Jack and his family, who of course will survive, because if they die quickly, of course this film will end quickly.
Go!
Realizing that this hotel is controlled by rebels, Jack and his family are determined to jump to the building next door, where we will see a tense and adrenaline-filled scene, when Jack throws his children one by one at his wife, who is already in the building next door.
You think?
It doesn't stop there. The feeling of security that you feel doesn't last long, because suddenly a cannon is fired at the building, where again we will see how lucky Jack and his family are, until when a rebel finds out where they are, Jack is forced to kill him for the safety of his wife and 2 children. From there they took the initiative to go to the American embassy, where Jack and his family disguised themselves as residents there and ride motorbikes to arrive at the embassy. Along the way we will feel an atmosphere of worldly tension, because apart from being in a foreign country, the streets feel very quiet without any women who like to stand on the side of the road. Not only that, Jack had to get through a crowd of rebels where they would have been discovered, but because the director didn't allow that to happen, Jack was still able to survive. Arriving at the embassy building, it turned out that the rebels had already taken control of the building, which meant that everyone there had been killed. As the rebels exited the building, Jack immediately took his family away, where they met an old man who was a local resident, who kindly helped and hid them in the yard of his house. Bad luck befell Annie when the old man was threatened with death. Annie came out of her hiding place and surrendered herself for the old man's life.
Jack, grab it!
When the rebels were off guard, Jack beat up one of the rebels and managed to seize his weapon, but because Jack had never played PUBG, he couldn't use the weapon and instead had to watch his wife being raped by the rebels.
Get the fuck off me! No! I'm fucking killed!
Not long after, one of the other rebels appeared carrying a man who was none other than Hammond. Whereas Hammond continued to talk, he suddenly took a gun and...
You got 2 and 6!
It turned out that this person was one of Hammond's colleagues who was disguised as a rebel, and Jack and his family were immediately taken to a building which was a temporary safe place for all of them.
Well done.
While Jack's family was eating, Hammond invited Jack to chat, where Hammond finally revealed that he was a member of the CIA who was assigned to resolve some kind of conflict, where the rebels were people who didn't like America's presence and power in their country. It is an open secret that several power-hungry Americans built and collaborated with the top officials of this Southeast Asian country, such as providing large loans, so that when the country could not pay, the Americans were allowed to build companies, places of business, which were not liked by some local residents, who eventually rebelled in this less civilized way, and Jack was one of the victims of the actions of these powerful people.
We own him. I'm the one who put your family in harm's way. Get some sleep. We leave in 4 hours.
Tired of all the tension he was experiencing, Jack decided to rest with his family, until in the middle of the night. They were shocked when Hammond and his colleague were involved in a shootout which resulted in Hammond's colleague dying right then and there. Hammond told Jack and his family to continue running to the border. While he himself was shot, he felt he had no hope of living again, and as a former CIA agent, Hammond sacrificed himself for the safety of Jack and his family. When Jack arrived at the river bank, he had to use a boat to reach the border, but because the rebels continued to chase him, Jack and his family were forced to hide to avoid their pursuit. When he was discovered, he was attacked by the rebels, where his eldest daughter Lucy was determined to come out of her hiding place to just put a burden on her father Jack.
Daddy, Lucy!
When the rebel was about to shoot Lucy, Annie appeared and immediately hit him with a paddle. Then Jack quickly took a gun and immediately slaughtered the rebels. After surviving, Jack and Annie rowed a boat to reach the border between countries, and when other rebels appeared with weapons, they were surprised by border soldiers who were ready to shoot them all.
We need help! Do not shoot!
This boat is now in Vietnam. Lower your weapon!
Because Jack had entered the territory of a neighboring country, the rebels had no other choice but to let Jack go, so this terrible adventure finally ended in a very touching way. After all his family members were safe, Jack would no longer accept jobs abroad and chose to set up a chicken diaper business in his country and live simply as part of a good, law-abiding citizen.